I presume you're here in order to learn of Magecraft. I'll have you know, there's no room for the weak-willed in this course, and despite your best efforts, the sorcery of our time is but a fraction of what it once was in the Age of Gods. Much of the craft is established through pedigree, and the culture of mages is riddled with deception and moral depravity. That said, if you insist, I shall do my best to educate you in this miserable, yet fascinating world. In our previous lesson, I spoke of familiars, the creatures that do a mage's bidding. Death can sometimes play a key role in the construction of a familiar, so I feel that now would be a prime opportunity to continue the theme. Today, I wish to speak of the thaumaturgical branch known as Necromancy. This will serve as one paradigm of many through which we can understand the life of mages, what it truly takes to succeed as one, and at what cost. About death. Even for mages, the concept of death can be haunting. Mages, while they do not always show it, have those they care for and love. Only the most cold and calculating of them have no affection whatsoever for the living. Even so, from a practical standpoint, death is far from a person's end. After all, a human is the synthesis of body, mind, and soul, making death nothing more than a separation of these components. The body that is left behind from death has many uses. Even without the soul's presence, a corpse retains residual mana and can be utilized as a material in thaumaturgical processes. Such is necromancy, the practice of processing and manipulating the corpses of the dead. Mages who choose this path effectively preside over death, embracing a cold life of solitude and darkness. While most mages seek their own self-preservation, necromancers have incentive to put their own lives on the line. They are at their most proficient in places drenched in human death, and what better place to find death en masse than a battlefield, which is guaranteed to be strewn with corpses by combat's end. Morgues and graveyards might have their fair share of corpses, but they are certainly less fruitful of fresh materials, and raiding them serves to expose Magecraft to the public. Instead, the more adept necromancers scope out war like hawks, flocking to revolutions and genocide, especially between rival mages. Albeit dangerous, this proves ideal, as war is constant in our world. Primarily, necromancers will turn fallen bodies into their own minions as zombified familiars. These can be enhanced through Magecraft, granting them different tiers of strength and intelligence. Other times, necromancers opt to restructure corpses to form threatening monsters. These bodies needn't merely be human either. Phantasmal beasts and animals are also quite viable. Even so, there is always the chance that an undead familiar may turn on its master. The bodies of the dead remain with traits inherited from their time alive, such as anger or regret, which serve as a double-edged sword of sorts. Thus, in preparation, necromancers must be prepared to slay their own creations. Arguably, a safer approach would be to convert corpses into inventive and unique mystic codes, or tools that a mage can keep in their arsenal. This is what the famed necromancer Kairi Sisigou is known for. In his case, though, beyond just tools, Kairi turns the dead into his very weapons, taking an even more direct role in combat. His case is far from a celebratory one, unfortunately. As you've learned in previous lessons, mage families often struggle to keep their lineage alive over generations, and this becomes even more difficult when mages relocate far from their ancestors. Such is the case for Kairi's family, who moved from the Far East and suffered a major decline in mana potency. Despite this, both Kairi and his father Toki were exemplary mages. A mage family from the Far East enduring for 7 generations was quite remarkable given the circumstances. However, Kairi himself suffers from a manifestation of his family's curse that renders him sterile, unable to pass on his genetics to a child. To overcome this, his family had him adopt a distant relative as his stepdaughter. It was a move of desperation. A family has no future without an heir, but the transferring of a parent's magical crest onto their child is dangerous as is. There's the risk of rebound or rejection, which becomes far more prevalent the further the recipient is in relation to the crest's current holder. The odds of his stepdaughter surviving the transplant were low. A colder mage would simply accept the risk and press forward, but Kairi cared deeply for his stepdaughter and was devastated when the procedure wound up killing her. Unable to bear this pain further, he accepted himself as the last of his lineage and rejected a life of research in order to profit from his necromancy as a mercenary. A dropout from the clock tower, Kairi's status as a mage dropped, while his spellcasting remained as strong as ever. By wandering the world reaping war zones, he maximized his potential as a necromancer, gathering mage corpses and their magic crests as material for his craft. That said, while he sports a daring attitude and outgoing persona, he still feels the pain of losing his stepdaughter. Under the guise of continuing his legacy, Kairi aims to find a way to bring his daughter back, placing his hopes in the Holy Grail to perform a miracle. Until then, he tries to cope through the unfortunate habit of smoking, such as common for mages. His preferred cigarette is an exceptionally rare Taiwanese brand called Dragon Smoke. He intentionally smokes them because their horrid taste makes him feel the world's transient nature. Perhaps this informs his approach to combat. The mystic codes he creates combine elements of the dead with modern weaponry. He is most like Kiritsugu Emiya in this regard, and his weapons are considered just as heretical. Regardless, it's hard to argue against how effective they are. Kairi fights with a sawed-off shotgun that fires human fingers as bullets. The result is a deadly combination of physical force and the evocation of the Gundo curse on his targets. The bullets embed themselves into the target, releasing the curse to burst their heart for a sure kill. Thanks to the magical properties of this shotgun, he need not worry about precise aim. The bullets will actually hone onto his enemies. Despite this, the gun needs reloading, and to provide cover during that time, he relies on unique grenades. These grenades are made from a mage's heart, stuffed with teeth and nails to provide shrapnel. When hit by the shrapnel, victims will essentially die from concentrated poison. Kairi has a number of tools in his arsenal beyond offensive weaponry. He can deploy a reanimated monkey hand to construct a barrier, and the eyes of animals to supplement his own vision remotely. He's also quite adept at making herbal mixtures. His most iconic concoction is an antidote for poison made from the venom of a hydra. Simply handling and processing the venom is an exceptionally deadly 3-hour process, and even then, the resulting poison is only enough to coat a single dagger. Of course, Kairi is definitely not the only necromancer out there, though I will say their respective approaches are quite unique. The deceased mage Trevor Pelham Codrington was a necromancer who constructed his workshop over a barren wasteland, constantly ravaged by lightning. He combined his talents as a necromancer with the help of fairies like Fae to turn those who died in his wasteland into ravenous black dogs as a defensive measure. Many necromancers still involved with the clock tower are far more tame, avoiding the controversial techniques of their ambitious peers, making it so that necromancy doesn't bask in the spotlight of study or discourse. Yet I nonetheless wanted to enlighten you of their existence. In summation, necromancy is the craft of processing and utilizing corpses as tools for magecraft. This can mean animating the dead, constructing creatures, or embedding their bodies into mystic codes. To succeed in this craft, necromancers isolate themselves to catacombs, tombs, and graveyards, while taking to the battlefield to raid the bodies of newly fallen warriors. Not all are quite this ambitious, but such is the life of Kairi Sisigou, the most infamous necromancer. He remains in contact with the clock tower, serving as a mercenary who sticks to the underground society of Magecraft. Despite being so capable, his feats come as a result of his own weakness, his inability to protect his beloved stepchild. While his combative nature stands out the most among his peers, other necromancers certainly keep their heads down, thriving in society off the bodily remains of the deceased. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy this channel, help me beat the algorithm by liking, commenting, and sharing the video, subscribing to OtakuDaiKun, and, most of all, smashing that notification bell so you don't miss out on all of my anime discussion, lore, or Let's Play content. If you want to support me directly, there are now 3 ways that all provide the same benefits. You can click join here on YouTube, or join Patreon or Subscribestar for access to exclusive vids and early access. As always, celebrate your fandom.